So, welcome to Wellbeing Wednesday.
Welcome.
So you might recognise the fire from last week's video.
We kept it burning for that long.
We kept the video burning for a whole week. So we're actually filming this on the same day, and we noticed that Matt's been reading some books. So what exactly are fractal patterns, Matt?
Well, funny you should ask that. So fractal patterns it's kind of the patterns of nature, I suppose. So if you're outdoors, you've got kind of natural flowing patterns, which obviously true to kind of, nature and how nature's designed. And then you look in when you're somewhere man-made, it's very straight, right-angled kind of, unnatural kind of shapes and designs. So what does all this mean, I ask? So it stems to how our eyes move. So if you're indoors and looking at straight lines, your eyes are going to move fast down those lines. And if you're outdoors looking at natural patterns, they'll move nicely over the patterns. And someone's argue what we're supposed to look at and kind of, like an enjoyable moment for us. But how does it all work, eh?
So what Matt's just said there has made me think about my training as an IAMT practitioner.
Yeah.
So that's integral eye movement therapy. So in integral eye movement therapy, we wiggle our fingers about and get to follow it round, and the idea is that moving your eyes can shift stuck states.
Yeah.
So that fractal pattern stuff sounds like it's quite
It's similar.
similar.
Yeah, with the idea basically behind it is the speed in which your eyes are moving affects how quickly our brain's processing things and the kind of processing and what the brain has to process at that time. So if our eyes move around quickly, rapidly, we're getting a lot of quick information that's very unnatural to the brain, so it's having to process a lot, which probably in turn creates cortisone and builds up stress and kind of, it's not where we want to be. So if you're nature, and this is why even looking at a picture of nature can calm us and relax us, because our eyes over that picture, or better when we're in nature, move along with the patterns, and it slows down our eye movement, which in turn slows down our brain processing speed, or the speed in which our brain's kind of processing at that time.
Maybe our brainwave frequencies.
Yeah.
Which we'll talk about in another video.
Yeah. So if we're somewhere that's kind of very rigid, closed shapes, we're going to be more on edge, more kind of alert, and our body's kind of looking for something. But when we're natural, and then just have a swing around at this view. So you can look around us. You've got the nice flow of the hill, the trees, the rocks, and there's nothing too rigid and same and similar, and it's a very nice natural environment.
But there is some uniformity as well.
And
like similar colours, but it's more like similar than exactly the same.
Yeah, similar, and it's about the kind of how it relaxes us, because I feel pretty relaxed right now.
Yeah. This is good.
And
but this also fits with, I feel a lot more comfortable working with a group of kids, for example, in nature, in the outdoors, than I would have done in a classroom.
Yeah. And I think it's better, humans, kids as well, but humans in a more natural setting, they're going to learn better, because and you think, if take a classroom for example, you've got bright lights, often blue light now, which disrupts the mind, and you've got everything regimented, everything square, everything right angles, and our brains know where to look. It creates a kind of unsettledness and kind of panic, frustration in us, that will detract. And most people find that quite not kind, but easy to work with, because it's annoying. But for someone with neurodiversity, those distractions are phenomenal. They're coming in left, right, and centre. And somewhere like this, sat in a nice natural environment, you can look, but there's nothing really pulling you away. it's a calm kind of distraction that doesn't divert your attention.
Yeah. So my mind has gone to two things there. Is this why the idea of having a vintage car is so much like more appealing than getting like a Cybertruck?
I'd agree, yeah, personally. I mean, there is a lot to be said going into psychology realms about how trends and kind of what's the word? Like decor these days is very straight lined and regimented. You know, it's not. You look at Art Deco and that's flowing patterns, and people are not happy about them for some time.
Well,
but it's
so architecture was the other thing that I was thinking.
Yeah.
And hey, this is one of those moments where you can tell me I'm wrong. The Spanish architect that does the like melty flowy shapes, was it Gaudi?
I think so, yes.
Yeah, so that like Gaudi architecture is like that. It just looks fun.
And you compare that to, like, if you look at the futurists, you know, like Kandinsky and people like that.
Yeah.
Their paintings are very straight line, very rigid, and as much as they're nice to look at, you are a bit like, oh.
And when I look at like that sort of brutalist stuff, like shopping centres and those like classic brutalist architecture designs, they're generally places that I find quite stressful.
Yeah.
So do you think that could have something to do with?
I do, and you know, there isn't a huge amount of research relating it to our engagement and our processing and work during that time. But obviously they've done research where they've just shown pictures to people of a tree or a bush or a riverbank and tested the stimulation in their brain compared to like looking at a car. And it's like what we've said in previous videos about, you know, healing better in nature and looking at a car park from the hospital over a park. And the tests show that even looking at these images, our brain is affected.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think from an occupational therapy perspective, environment is key to what we're trying to do. So if you're somewhere in an environment that isn't settling you and, you know, makes you feel a bit on edge or anxious, even if it's subconsciously, you're not going to perform the best in that environment.
So, as Fractal Patterns links in so closely with eye accessing, I'll just explain a little bit more about eye accessing. So if we look at this plane of side to side, so when we're looking there, we're going to be accessing things verbally. You know, hence like maintaining eye contact and having a conversation with someone, assuming they're similar height or we're both sat down together. When we're looking up, we're engaging the parts of our brain that are more connected with like visual thoughts, and when we're looking down, we're connecting more with like kinesthetic and emotional feelings. And we also have a preference as to side, whether it's memory or imagination. So just as a little demo for this, I'm going to pick up this camera and put it exactly where I am, so I'm looking right at Matt's face, and get it right close up there, not that close. And I'm going to simply ask Matt a question and say, what colour is your front door?
Brownish.
So, said brownish. Very difficult to see any eye movement there. So, what colour was your front door in your university house? Right, so we clearly saw that he looked up to the left.
Yeah.
So to Matt's left is probably his memory.
Yeah.
So that's visual memory.
Red, I think.
Yeah, so that's visual memory, is looking up there. So now we can use that to kind of calibrate what's going on for Matt. And so once I've worked out that side preference, and as customs officers do this, they ask you questions that you like blatantly know the answer to. Like they stood there with, you know, they've already done the ANPR thing on the car, and you say, "Is this your car?" And where are you going? Whilst they're looking at and it's like,
Your itinerary.
I'm at Dover. I'm not going to be going anywhere other than Calais, am I? So it's, you know, they ask you these questions, and what they're doing is they're calibrating so that they can see whether you're imagining or remembering when you say, no, there isn't a bomb or any drugs or a person who doesn't have a passport in the vehicle. And it's like, it's really clever stuff, and it can be used. It can be used a lot. Really good for playing poker.
Oh yes.
But so that brings me on to IAMT. So IAMT, it uses these eye movements to help deal with past events, traumas, phobias, and things like that. And the concept is, as we move our eyes around, it helps us to experience the issue with different parts of the brain.
Very compassion-based focus, kind of. Similar.
And it's very nice, and we deal with a feeling, not a traumatic event. So it's got no. Well, I'd like to say a very low risk of re-traumatization. Let's never say never.
Yeah.
But you know, a lot of people say there's no risk of re-traumatization. But yeah, it's great. It's a great tool. So if I was using that process, and this is like a very fast thing, so I'd ask Matt to sort of think about a stuck state he wants to change, and visualise it.
I'm getting smoky eyes. My eyes are going
and once he's got a visualisation of that stuck state is changing, I just ask him to follow my finger, and we just move his eyes about. And it smooths out the patterns, and he's got that visualisation on the end of my finger. And that's kind of how it works. In short.
In short, yeah. That sounds. I mean, it does. I guess if you're looking at it from fractal patterns, it's almost like it's practicing. So if you're looking at fractal patterns in nature, it's almost like you're allowing yourself to access parts of the brain you wouldn't normally access. Which I don't know. That's just an observation from what you said.
So that's a very brief introduction to like the IAMT stuff. And shameless plug here: if you are dealing with phobias or trauma and stuck states, you know, that's a service that we do offer. You know, I'm a registered IAMT specialist, and my specialism with it is really it's using it around cyclists who've been in traffic accidents. Because we do it like in the site, at the side of the road, and combine it with cycle training. But anyway, I'll shut up about that.
Yeah, no, that's just fascinating stuff.
Matt, what, as an OT, how do you use this fractal patterns theory?
So, yeah, I mean, to me, it's the usage, because a lot of people I've worked with have high anxiety or stress, you know, sometimes schizophrenia. So that engagement's really hard for them, especially people with agoraphobia, for example, where they can't get out. And they become obviously stuck in the same room. It's going to intensify the kind of the pressure feels better. And if you're looking around, like I was saying before, those structured and rigid patterns, your brain's going moving fast and processing fast. So that's going to get smoky. So that's going to you know, create a kind of more increase what you're feeling, your anxiety, your stress. So a lot of my process is to, you know, within OT, grade things up. You don't, you know, go straight in and say, right, we're going to spend an hour in the woods. You know, you might get a plant like you suggested earlier and just look at that. But I've had people in the past where I've taken out just for little walks, and you know, like we were talking about the nature-based therapy the other week, bringing in those kind of activities and interventions, I suppose, and just encouraging people to look around them, and you can notice a difference. I mean, you know, my experience working in sort of mental health facilities, when you take people out, you can see the stress ease off them. They become calmer, their shoulders relax, and you know, it's a physical thing you can see, and that is just from the different environment and a more relaxing environment. But a majority of the time, people come back and they'll want to go for walks again. They'll be, oh, I felt really relaxed after that. I felt really, really enjoyable. You know, I felt like I didn't have so many rushing thoughts, which is exactly what the theories say it creates. But to actually see it, you know, in word of mouth and see it works, it's just fantastic. So yeah, I use it as a basis for a lot of my sessions. Well, I don't necessarily talk about fractal patterns as a thing, but I bring it into my programs and have a moment to actually look and observe the environment, which relaxes. And kind of...
So obviously, the things that we offer as services, you know, if you're in a position where you can get some funding, or you have the money to pay for it yourself, you know, so someone could book a session with you and go through these things like that with you as an occupational therapist, like you could do the IMT stuff with myself.
Definitely. Specialising in mental health and stress and anxiety and stuff.
But what can somebody watching these videos who doesn't have access to finances, what can they do to benefit from fractal patterns?
I mean, if you've got a garden or a local park, you know, you can go and sit in that park or that area where there are some trees, and I mean, you're looking for natural things like trees, maybe rock formations, a river, just not big buildings or cityscapes. Even if you're in a city, you can sit somewhere where you're not looking at cityscapes, just at a tree, and just spend a moment just looking at that and just being involved in it. Try not to have any other thought. Don't necessarily try and do anything. Just look around and just let your eyes move. Just be guided by your eyes, which sounds a weird thing to say and do, but when you're sitting there and doing it, it's one of those things that just clicks. You'll just like be in the moment.
It fits with aimless wandering from the beginning of the Shirin process.
But in this, you're just focusing on looking at those patterns, and it's, if you're high stress, high anxiety, and a lot of mental health, you have that kind of similar feelings to high stress. It's just to sit and calm yourself. And in my experience, a lot of people who are stressed will sit there and they'll be like, right, can't look, can't do. And you're moving around because that stress is flowing in your body, that, you know, cortisone and all that. So just to use that stress to kind of look around, and you will find you slowly, and it's not, I mean, you'll feel the effects within one session, but it's not going to cure you overnight. It's a regular thing you have to do.
So excuse the pun, but getting started with using fractal patterns is a walk in the park.
On that note, but yeah, you could even get, you know, a little plant in your house, or like I said, a photo, and you know, just gauge in on the photo, and you know, you don't want it to be too small because you don't see edges, but you know, it's just about giving yourself the time and space to observe a different environment.
I find watching a fire, like sitting watching this, really relaxing. Is that a fractal patterns thing?
I mean, the wood wouldn't be, but you know, you've got the flames, the way the flames are moving, you know, it's, that would be a form of fractal pattern. I mean, fractal patterns, the natural pattern of nature. It's kind of be, without going too sciencey on it.
Right. Yeah. So it could be that movement as well as shape. Yeah. I guess, I mean, obviously fractal pattern is a pattern that stays there. But yeah, I mean, like looking at this river, you know, you can see like where you've got the rapids going, just different forms, different curves, and just looking, I mean, I'm finding it, I mean, the sound as well is relaxing, but yeah, it's just about giving
yourself time and space to kind of observe what benefits you and what patterns benefit you. It might be a tree, it might be a bush, it might be your neighbour's rose bush next door that you're looking out your back window. It's just about giving yourself a chance to come away from these man-made, kind of very structural, similar patterns. So yeah, I think it's just about finding what works for you, but just, I guess the easy way to remember it is something that's natural, not man-made.
Okay.
So as the fire dies down, let's have some quick fast fire tips on that.
Yeah, so top tips for fractal patterns.
I'd say start off by bringing nature into your home.
Yeah.
Pictures, stuff like that.
Get out into nature regularly.
Yep. And also when you're in nature, don't force it. You know, look up, look left, look down, be king of the road.
Yeah. When you're in an urban, man-made environment, look for the nature.
Yeah.
Look for natural shapes.
Yeah, yeah. Not buildings, you know, a leaf. You know, just looking at a leaf on a pavement can do it. So yeah.
Pigeons.
Pigeons, you know, quite streamlined. Anyway, on that note, I'm going to go look at this tree.